Hi, it's Jess here from Nigezza.co.uk. Thank you for joining me today. So it's a bit of a junk journal day, but I'm also doing stamping up. I love it when they both can come together. So I made this card a little while ago, shared it on social media, and people were saying, oh, you're going to share how to do it. Well, I am and I'm not. I'm going to share how I did the aging bit, but I'm creating this project. Now, lots of people are making cards that do this, and I've turned it into a little notebook. So it's a sort of a journal, a vintage journal style one, and I thought these would be cute. So I've used the same elements in this so I can show you, and then you can easily replicate. So yeah, so I have actually received a card like this, which is quite cute, but I decided I'd put some paper in it as well and make it a little notebook. And I'm doing a little happy mail swap, and I thought this in it would be lovely, great for little happy mails. I've started doing quite a few of those in a junk journal group I'm in, and I thought these were be ideal to pop in. You can easily put it in a journal or just carry it around in your handbag and something to jot down, and then you could even rip the pages out and stick them in your journal as well. So yeah, so very quick and easy to make, and so I will show you how I did it. So I've used crumb cake, and it's just half a sheet of crumb cake. So normally I do my cards and I cut it half that way, but this way half that way. That's being used as a mat, but there's enough in it to get another half sheet out here. So that's 4 1/8, because UK A4 is 4 1/4, so cut it at 4 1/8. If you are watching in other countries where you have 8 1/2, then you'd cut it at 8 1/4. And we have it's about 11 3/4 length. So I score at 5 7/8. So that's your halfway. So that would be a gatefold card. It always is slightly out, but I always just push it up there, give it a burnish, and then it's perfect. So we want this sort of opening here, and what I did was I scored it at 4 1/2 just to make the maths for this easier. Okay, so I couldn't tell you what that is. I didn't really take much notice. So basically what I did was I put this at the 4 1/2 mark and scored it. So this will be, it's 1, that's gone there, so it's about 1 7/8. Okay, so then I just fold it back, give it a burnish. So what people are doing is turning these into cards. So you would glue that bit down and just decorate that bit, decorate the inside, decorate that side bit, and it's just a different sort of card. But I say I'm going to turn it into a little notebook. So yeah, so it's sort of quite easy to do. So I have decorated it with this beautiful vintage looking paper, and it's the same as I used on here. Now that paper started life as black and white, and I just aged it. So when I looked at that, I just thought this would be a beautiful vintage pattern. I ain't got much of that sheet left. I'm going to use a different sheet for this. So this is the Always Love You Always. I'm terrible, I never remember. Love You Always. I'll link it down below what the paper is, but they're all black and white. So you've got these beautiful sort of floral patterns, and I have coloured these. I have done a card where I've coloured these flowers in, and lots of people have done that. I've used one in its entirety. I did a little journal using one sheet, But I thought, particularly this one, I thought was very sort of a vintage feel to it. So this is the one I'm going to use. And then on the other side, you've got some sort of, woohoo, that plays havoc with my eyes. So you've got just some plain, I love stripes, black and white patterns. So yeah, just different way of using your paper. I say I have seen lots of people colour them in with watercolour blends and different things like that. And these ones, fussy cut and things. But I'm using this one because I like it. So we just need to cut it down. And I did do some matting on it. So I cut a matte in very vanilla, which I aged, and then a matte in this. So what we've got is, I'm just going to cut those, otherwise we'll be forever. Okay, so I've cut all my bits up. So for this, I will put all the measurements over on my blog, and I'll link that down below. So this is 1 1/8 by 3 7/8. This is 4 1/4 by 3 7/8. The one on the back, which you don't have to put on, but I quite like the idea of putting one on the back, is 5 5/8 by 3 7/8. So basically I do my mats so that they are 1/4 inch shorter and thinner, and then you get a nice 1/8 inch border. And then we need our little bits of DSP to mat. So this one's 4 by 3 5/8, and that one's 7/8 by 3 5/8. Okay, that looks a bit in your face right now, so we're going to age that. But whilst we're cutting up, I thought I'd do the sheets in the middle. So I've got some coffee dyed paper here. I generally tea dye. This is the last batch of coffee dye I did, because I find it smells. So tea doesn't smell so much. So basically I'm using 3 sheets, going to cut them in half, so we'll have 6, but I'm only going to use 5. I found that was the optimal amount, and I am just going to cut them in half. I will trim them down afterwards, but I'm just for now cutting them in half. I've got that marked off there at 4 1/8, so that I can simply chop them in half, and I will chop them down a little bit better, because you want them to be smaller, but when they're folded over and then put in the booklet, the sort of like, you know, like the middle ones protrude and things. So I thought it's easier to cut them down to size afterwards, so you get a nice, that one's a bit bent, so we won't use that one. And then I just use this as a nice butter upper, and I just butt it up to the end and give it a good crease. It's only paper. This is, so if you didn't want to make it vintage, you could make one like this just with ordinary white copy paper. And you could, and I thought about it, I might do another video on it at some point, that you could give yourself a bit of a spine down there, so you could give yourself 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch or something there, so you could put more paper in. But I just wanted to do this as a really simple flat notebook that could be an insert in a journal. And I say I'm putting this one in Happy Mail, which hopefully will go in the post as soon as I've finished recording this. This is the last thing to put in it. So it's typical. I've had it's a May swap, and I've kind of left it to the very end of May to get it sorted. To be fair, everything else is done. I just decided I could have posted what I've already put in it, but I decided that I want to put this in it. So yeah, I could have posted it last week, but I didn't. There we go. Last minute Joe, that's me. So there we go. So that's all ready to go in. I love the feel of paper that's been dyed and dried. Nice and crispy. Nice and crispy. So let's get on with the... I'm going to keep that so I can write my measurements down properly. So let's get on with the distressing of these things. We've got to distress them all, really. So I'm going to bring in a paper that I've already done some distressing on. So I've got my blending brush. I've got a little sponge dauber, and I've got my ink. And I'm using soft suede and early espresso. So soft suede gives you a really nice sort of deep brown. Sometimes I use crumb cake, but that's much lighter now. I've just realised that with the cutter, if you cut on the wrong side, you get a bit of a ridge. So I'm just gonna make sure there's no ridges. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me that this looks a bit vintagey. Yeah, when it's a little bit, you sometimes get creasing up. So just going over, and straight away you've got that aged look. Every wall in our house and all the white paintwork was this colour because both my parents smoked. And that's what it looked like. So it's easier to show on this bigger one because you can't really see the little one. So I sort of come in with my brush from the edges, so you get that variegated sort of colour that's a bit darker on the outside and not so much on the middle. Love soft suede, such a good colour. And it goes really well then on the crumb cake base. I like it. And so that's what I did with the card. I just took a little bit. I think it was, trying to see how big a square did I do. 3 inch, I thought so. So I just did a 3 inch by 3 inch square. Coloured it. It's one thing, sometimes I just like to play and make a card and then, you know, not film it. And just share anyway. And I say, people then went, oh, are you doing a video on it? So then you get that bit in the middle that's not quite as dark. I'm just going to put a little bit more on this. I don't want to, it's quite hard because I don't want to bend up the ends, which you are in danger of doing. There, that's a bit better. And then to get that effect of it much darker on the outside, this one had a lot more black in it. That's when I come in with the early espresso. And I decided to use sponge dauber for this. And I just get a bit of ink on, and then I just, in circular motions, go round the edge of the paper. I'm thinking about my lunch. I've suddenly realised I'm starveroony and need to eat. That's that. And then I want to go round the this and the two little mats that it's going to mat onto, because it's far too far too white at the moment, well, cream, so they need a little bit of distressing before they go on there. So I just want to go around the very edge. That bit done. So now we're going to change ink colours, and I'm going to go with soft suede. You can see, look, where the bits of sponge has come off a bit. So a bit more of this, and we'll just go around the edge. So that is how they got aged. And then we need to do the piece for the back, and I used an embossing folder for this. I say this is totally up to you whether or not you want to do that. You could leave it plain. So I've got this lovely floral embossing folder. I will link it down below because I can't remember what it's called. Yes, so I'll link that one down below. So I'm going to get that embossed, and then I'll show you how I aged that as well. So there it is, embosses beautifully. Really like that, and I think it lends itself really well with a vintage look. So like before, I'm going to use my blending brush and a soft suede, and because it's embossed, then you get sort of like the raised edges pick up the ink really well, and you get this varying sort of colour going on, which is a really nice effect. And so that's what I used for the matte on the card. I thought it went really well with the florals in the paper. And again, I thought it lent itself really well to a vintage look. And I shared this in my Facebook group, and somebody went, "Oh, love it. Gonna have to have one of them." Hadn't noticed it in the catalogue. And that's what's good about doing sort of YouTube videos, and show people different things that they might have missed, or use them in a different way. So that's that. And then, like before, we just want to go around the edges in early espresso to give that sort of darker bit to it. Which I think gives a really nice added extra. It's almost like the edges are burnt. Sometimes I air dry my papers now when I dye paper, but I used to put them in the oven, and sometimes they catch alight. I've got a gas oven, and yeah, they have been known to go up in flames. So, and then you get this blackened edge, which I do actually like. That's not coming. Give it a good. It's better. So that's that. I'm gonna come in a little bit. soften those edges a little bit. Might even add a bit of that. So you're happy with how it looks. And so that's ready for the back. So if I show you the original, you can see how I got that effect. Get rid of that now, we don't need it. So that's all ready to go on the back. So I'm going to stick these on before we go any further. So I'm just going to use a bit of Tombow glue to stick these on. Like Tombow, it's fast drying, but you do have a little bit of wigglage, and it's very strong, and a little goes a long way. Excuse you. These are not the bottles they come in. It's just what I decant it into. I find it helps when you're using little delicate dies. There we go. Don't tend to get very much oozing with it. So I'm going to stick the DSP to the mat first. Now I have done this so the pattern flows, so that's the way they need to go on there. So you don't have to do that, but I just think it flows nicely. Not that I'm sure most people wouldn't notice. So because you've got like all these layers now of card and DSP and glue, it's sort of adding strength and robustness to your little book. So there we have it. So that's now quite thick there. Right, so now what we need to do is add our pages. So you can do them one on top of each other like that, put it in, and there you can see they're the same width as the book, and they're hanging over the end because you can't get it directly into the corner, so they hang over the end. So I will be trimming that. If you did it so they were inside each other, which is another alternative, you get the protruding, you get protrusion there. So it does need to be trimmed down before it's stuck in place. So the first one I did them separately, but I am actually thinking that I might glue them like this. So I am going to do a little bit of glue just along there. Just stick them in, because I'm going to trim down just to give it a little bit more security. So just putting it in, give it a press, not too worried. Not too worried about it being straight, because I'm going to trim it all. And remember, it's going to come a good, it's an inch and a bit on there. So they're all stuck, they're stuck, they're stuck. The one in the middle isn't, is it? There. So last one, stick in. And so this is different to how I did the other one. The other one I piled on top of each other, the separate signatures, but, or the separate pages, but I think this is the best way. Right, so they're all glued together. And I say it doesn't matter that like that bit's got a bit of oozing there, because they're going to come forward an inch anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to show you how I trim it. So I need to get my glass mat. So I've got glass mat, I've got a ruler there that's got a metal edge. I've also got a metal ruler, and I've got a knife. I bought this from the pound shop, and I watched lots and lots of junk journalers, and I was watching Dawn Preston, and she's so fast with one of these, and I thought I'm going to give it a go. And you know, it was so easy. I've tried using my guillotine, but actually this is so much easier. So I'm just going to trim off the edges. So I'm lining up, I've just put it maybe a 1/4 of an inch over one of these lines. I'm lining my ruler up, top edge there and top edge there, making sure it's straight at the top, so I know I'm getting a straight line, and then just run my blade down just a few times until all the papers come and you've got a nice neat edge. So then I'm going to turn it round that way, so I've got a nice straight edge there, measuring the corner up there, and I'm going to move it a little bit so that I can again take off about 1/4 of an inch. That's more like 1/2 an inch to be fair, and run it down in a straight line. And then all your pages will be nice. Glass mats are good. You can use like ordinary craft mat with South Sealer, but the important thing is to have a metal edge, because if you use a plastic ruler you just cut it up. And then I'm going to turn it around that way, so now I can move that edge over about 1/4 of an inch, measure everything straight, and we've got our final one. So that is what I found recently, just checking we are all straight, to be a really easy, quick way of doing this when I'm making little notebooks. And I'll be doing it on my next journal to make sure the page is all right. And that's how we've got nice neat pages. Okay, remember to pull it back. Cheap as chips. You get 6 for £1. So if they don't last very long, it really doesn't matter, does it? So I'm going to move my glass mat away because there might be some glare on it. So there we are. So that will now go in there, and you've got a nice little edge all the way around, so that can get stuck in and you can open, and there it is, all ready and sorted. Now the way I did the attachment in this one is I glued it in. This bit of ribbon and the eyelets are just round this top bit. That's why it doesn't go all the way through to the back. So I basically put glue on there, stuck it in, did me 2 eyelets, threaded me ribbon, then applied glue and stuck it like that. And that was how that went in. But I was thinking I might put ribbon all the way round the back, just so we can see the difference and decide if we like it. So it's too thick to put an eyelet all the way through, so my thoughts are I'm going to put an eyelet on that side, an eyelet on this side, and just make holes in the middle. So I am eyeballing that so it's in the middle. We're going to take the crocodile because I've got one, and it will go all the way through. I've set that at 1/2 inch and I'm eyeballing it so it's in the middle, and it will go through all of those layers. You could hole punch separately. You could choose to do it the way I did my first one. So there we go, hole all the way through. But I say an eyelet will not go through all of that, so I'm going to take this out and I'm going to set 4 eyelets in here. I had to order some, got loads of colourful ones, but these are the ones I use the most of. You get them in packs, you get these backs with them. I don't know what use they are because I don't use them. I tried it and it didn't work. It didn't seem to join on, so either I was doing something completely wrong. Have I got 4? Because I've got all these now. I think I've got just enough for this project, or I might have 1 or 2 spare actually. So there we go. So I did get 4 out. Where's it gone? Might jump back in. So there we go. So these are really good for, I think Stampin' Up used to sell these a while back. And then we just squeeze it in. And I've got rheumatoid arthritis, so gripping, making a fist, doing anything that involves squeezing is quite difficult, but I actually find I can do these without much problem at all. I couldn't do a lot of them. If I had to do it hundreds of them, my hand will hurt, but just I stick them in all my tags. A bit obsessed, just think it looks nice. There we go, got one of them. So that's all neat and lovely and dandy. So now we can see where the holes match up, so you wouldn't know that that wasn't a double-sided one. So now I can glue this in place, and then we can add, I still want to glue it in place, and then we can add the ribbon. It is going to be secure with the ribbon, but I still want it to be well stuck down. There we go. Nicely in place. You can put some clips on if you want. I think it's not a bad idea. So I'm going to get another couple of clips for there, and then I'm going to get my ribbon. Okay, so I've put a few extra clips on there to hold them in place. I'm using this ribbon. This is some of a retired Stampin' Up ribbon. I got it when it was on clearance, which I thought went really well. It's really nice soft ribbon with some embroidered thread on it, and I thought it went really well with this project. So yeah, that's what I bought it for, to be used in my journals. But any ribbon would do. I think that's probably enough there. So it will open all the way up because I haven't glued it down. The other one I glued each page down, but because I'm putting the ribbon round, it doesn't need to be glued down there, which was another reason for doing this, because it actually took a lot of glue in each of those pages. So hence my new idea was born. But that's what you do, don't you? You sort of make something and then you work out easier ways of doing it. Put that through. Okay, I think that'll be enough for making a bow. So I want the bow to sit that way, so I make my knot that way, and then when the bow sits, it'll be at 90 degrees to where I've tightened the knot. Pull it up. There we go. See, I was sitting there thinking you better work. Now you've said that, but it does. So just pull the tails how I want them. Going to snip a bit off now, tidy it up, and then we'll see. I always leave my ribbon on the spool, less wastage that way. So pull you down, pull you down. It takes me about 2 seconds to tie a bow, and then about 3 hours to fiddle with it until it is how I want it to be. I think that's okay, and then just it off, and then just to sort of hold it in place, I take a little glue dot. So yeah, I take a little glue dot. So I get my little tool. Take a little glue dot to stick under there to hold that in place. Some people, I know that they put a glue dot under the initial knot. I don't want to do it after. So, and then it's a matter of decorating the front. So this one, I just cut out the words notes. So you could put a message. I did think you could put journal on there to sort of give it a title, and then I'm going to do some stamping on the pages. So I stamped on all the pages to give it a nice little finish off. So I'm going to get that ready. Okay, so on the front, I cut these out using some alphabets dies, but I've got this one. It was on clearance from Stampin' Up, and it got Inspire, Adventure and Forever. So I don't think it's available anymore. Sweet Silhouettes. So I quite like that. It does cut out the dots for the eyes, but I always think life's too short to be fiddling with them. So I usually use pearls or jewels for them. I'm going to colour it. I've got this bronze alcohol marker, and so I'm just going to colour pearl with it. I do want that to be a slightly different colour, so I'm just going to, I might just get the spongy dauber and just daub around it a bit. That'll probably be enough. Stick it on. Maybe a bit more. Actually, I might have been better cutting this out actually in Early Espresso card. Oh, I didn't, so let's just carry on. No, it doesn't pop very much, but it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it'll work. I might just give it a little bit of a brush with whatever ink's left on here. You'd never know it was that light cardstock. So it's just subtle, but I think that'll work. And this is where having this little ink bottle really helps, because you can get a really thin bead of ink going on, glue even. And then I can just add the pearls. The alcohol marker do dry quite quickly, but there we are, bit of inspire. And then we're just going to do the inking on the pages. So love this stamp set, it's new to me, it's new in the catalogue, this current catalogue. So I'm using that border and that beautiful swirl there, and to decorate the pages I'm using early espresso, because I think that will look really nice. So what I did was I just inked that up and went along the edge of the page. So each page edge I went along. And then I had to do this like this because we're kind of going off the edge. So then in this top corner I just did it so it wasn't full on, because it's quite a big stamp and it would take up a lot of the page that you were writing on. And then what I thought was I could put the full on the inside there, and I might put it full on the bottom edge at the back. So you've got a nice little bit of interest there. So that's my little book. That is this week's junk journal video, and I hope you enjoyed that. So that's my two versions there. You realise that you can take paper and distress it. Even something that's white can be distressed to make look old. Okay, I will link to all the products that I've used down below, and I'll link to my blog where I'll have all the measurements written out if you wish to have a go at this. So that was one sheet of A4 created 2 little booklets from, and this was the card that inspired the project, really. Okay, see you all again soon.